Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. Today we have an NFL Draft Prospect Special. Today we're going to highlight Breece Hall, running back, Iowa State University. So if you like the video today, please come in and share. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards of Football. And joining me, as always, as he has over the last few months, talking about all these great prospects getting ready for the 2022 NFL Draft. The young man studied under two of the greatest coaches in the game, Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells, when he was a scout for the New York Jets. The young man writes numerous articles day after day during this time period, from January to February to March to April, talking about all these great prospects. And he's also doing some interviewing. Roger McCreary, Cameron Thomas, two of the highly rated prospects in the 2022 NFL Draft. And he writes for Sports Illustrated, covering the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets, as you see him with his outstanding green, good-looking hat, the New York Jets. And he has a book out that's one of the best sellers on Amazon, Whatever It Takes. And please, if you have a story that you want to read about, this story about that young man with his book, Whatever It Takes, it would definitely change your life. So coming to the stage, as we're going to talk about this young man, Mr. Hall, running back out of Iowa State, out of Key West, Florida this morning. My man, I know him as DK, Mr. Daniel Kelly. How you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, Mr. Turner, I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic this morning, man. So we're not going to waste any time. Let's talk about this great prospect out of Iowa State, Breece Hall, running back, Iowa State University.
Well, we're not going to waste any time, just like he doesn't waste any time once he gets the ball in his hands and takes off from a line of scrimmage. Breece Hall, running back, Iowa State. You can see him there on your screen. 6'1", 220 pounds. As far as game film accountability, I'm one of the few evaluators in the country that actually talks about the game film I've seen. I don't just shoot from the hip. I watched him against Texas. I watched him against Iowa, and I watched him against West Virginia. You know what? It's funny, we don't talk a lot about running backs anymore in the National Football League when it comes to the draft. There's only been one or two of them taken in the first, second round, generally over the last since 2013. As a league, it's not the same league as I grew up with, and we grew up with. It's something where there's a more emphasis on the passing game these days, and teams have gone away from the running game more and more. But I tell you what, if you're looking for a running back, this is a very interesting guy. He's somebody who's put up big stats. If you go to ESPN.com, 2021, he had 253 carries, 1,472 yards, 5.8 average, 20 touchdowns, and a long of 80 yards. And this is not a one-hit, one-year wonder either. This is somebody who also did it in
They may have a couple technical difficulties there, but you want to take over for a second, Vincent?
touchdowns, 75 for a long as well that year. So you're looking at a guy who's put up back-to-back over 1,000 yards per season, back-to-back over 20 touchdowns 2 years in a row. And let's not forget, he's also a very good receiver out of the backfield. This guy is a complete back. He's somebody in 2021, he had 36 receptions for 302 yards, 8.4 yard average, 3 touchdowns. But in going back to 2020, 23 receptions, 180 yards, 7.8 yard average, 2 touchdowns. So this guy is a complete back, a dual threat. They can get it done out of the backfield. And the longs gains too that he had both years of 80 yards and 75 should tell you something as well. It should tell you that he's a home run hitter. I mean, this guy can take it to the house. There's no question. He can hit that home run. which he did in the two of the games I watched against West Virginia, against Texas. Go back and watch. It's pretty. He showed he can flat out run away from people. This guy can run. He can catch. And so let's break him down as a runner. He's a very interesting, intriguing prospect. He has good patience as a runner. He's tough. This guy will pound and pound and pound and test and test and test a defense until he finds the slightest of creases or the slightest of holes, and then that's where he shows his quickness and explosiveness through those holes, and he just darts right through there. That's a sign of a very good back. He's able to accelerate very quickly and go. That's how he has those long touchdown runs and runs away from people. He keeps looking for that hole and looking for that crease. This is a guy that, if he gets 20, 30 carries, he'd be best in that type of offense. He's a workhorse type of a back who's also a team player. He's a very unselfish runner. He's a guy that will sit in the hole and he'll pick up a blitz as well and sacrifice his body to pick up a blitz. And he'll just keep slamming it up in there until he finds the crease that he's looking for. More of a cut back, one cut runner. He's not elusive. We're not talking about Barry Sanders here. He's somebody that's not overpowering, but he runs hard. He also shows some polish as a runner, showing a spin move. As he has that as well. And again, like I talked about, he shows those hands of the backfield. He's somebody who is dangerous in space. So guys, what they'll do is they'll try to get the ball to him, either throwing it to him sometimes out in space, or they'll run him on a pitch play to get him to the perimeter and let him run that way. He is very dangerous in space. This guy, Breece Hall, running back, Iowa State, he's a very graceful runner. He runs with purpose, and he's somebody that runs with determination. And the thing about it that moves him into the second round discussion for me, again, guys, is that initial explosiveness. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for difference makers. You're looking for guys who can make a big difference and they have traits and characteristics that separate them and make them exciting and dynamic. And this guy has that explosiveness. He has the acceleration to get up and go. He has the hands that I've touched on several times. He has the speed to hit the home run. He has a little bit of Adrian Peterson to him. That's the name that kind of popped through my mind as I watched him play when I wrote him up for SI All Lions earlier as we entered into the bowl season. And, teams I can see him playing on, I could see him with the Falcons, Eagles, Cowboys, Ravens, Texans, or Chiefs. I think this guy would be a nice addition for any of those teams. He can come in as a nice change of pace back initially as a rookie, but he can develop into a back who can carry the load and be that guy. And I know a lot of teams are focused on quarterbacks. A lot of teams are focused on wide receivers. A lot of teams are focused on offensive linemen. But don't forget the running backs, because this guy is going to be a good one.
I like the young man. I think he's the best running back in the 2022 NFL draft, because what he done in the Big 12 and back-to-back seasons, he was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. That really sticks out in my mind. But, DK, I'm a big production guy. Production. His career production, 3,941 yards, 50 touchdowns, 734 yards receiving, 5.5 yards a carry. And when you look at his total touchdown production, 56 touchdowns. He had 6 touchdowns receiving. Plus, he's a young man. A lot of people saying he's got some mileage. But think about this. He doesn't turn 21 to May 31st. So he's a very young football player. Then another thing that really sticks out to me about him is that the speed, the breakaway speed you mentioned. He's a legitimate 4.39 guy at 6'1", 220 pounds. And everyone who's been watching 100 yards over the last few months and us covering these great prospects know that I attended the University of Arkansas from 78 to 81. And I saw some pretty good running backs that really put me mad in the Breece Hall. I'm going to start with Curtis Dickey, who was a great speed guy. They played at Texas A&M. Same size, 6'1", 220. Then Kenneth Davis, who went on, had a very good career backing up Thurman Thomas up there in Buffalo. Then looking at Walter Abercrombie, who played at Baylor, went on with the Pittsburgh. He was another guy that was 6'1", 220. And then look at all the great running backs. When I was at school at the time, you had Reggie Dupart, who was a good inside runner, got a lot of Mr. Hall traits in him. Then you had Jeff Atkins. Then, of course, the Pony Express. Breece Hall, I'm not saying he's going to be a next Eric Dickerson or Craig James, but when you look at him overall and you look at his resume and just look what he done on a national college level. And a lot of people say they don't play defense in the Big 12, but they do have a team by the name of Oklahoma that Mr. Hall had some success with. I think the 2 years that he played, he had a 150-yard game against them and a 170-yard game against them. So I like the young man. As I said before, I think he's the best back in the draft. We got a young man in Michigan State and Kenneth Walker that's out of my hometown at 901 Memphis, Tennessee, and I will get biased to Kenneth Walker. But right now, to me, Breece Hall is the guy that everybody, I think, is going to surprise and perform at the next level when it's all said and done. Final words about Breece Hall, Mr. Daniel Kelly.
Well, you raised some interesting and some good points there, Mr. Turner. I think, when you talk about this running back, you talked a little bit, you touched on the speed and you touched on the production. And those are two things that showed up very, very loudly for him in his college career. And I think that those are the types of things that are going to make him a very good back in the NFL. I do know what you're talking about with Kenneth Walker. I like him a lot too. And I think that those two guys will be the top backs taken in this draft. And, you just like I always say, when you're in the first round, you're in the second round, if you're a team, you have to come away with dynamic football players. You have to come away with game-changing type of football players. And Breece Hall is that type of player who can make a real difference. He's going to step in and make a difference for a team. I like him a lot. He's on my board. He's somebody who I think is going to have a very productive NFL career. And I don't know what it is about teams forgetting about these running backs, but the team that does get Breece Hall is going to be very fortunate because he's going to have a long and productive career in the National Football League along the lines of some of the guys you're talking about. And this is a name to get to know. And if you play fantasy football, definitely get to know this name because the guy's put up 20 plus touchdowns a season. That says something about the young man. He's a very good football player.
If you liked the video today, please come in and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. My final words about Breece Hall, the great band from England by the name of Def Leppard. Back in 1983, they had a single, Let It Ride. Cool woman, cool eyes. You got me hypnotized. When Breece Hall start breaking away and have some of them breakaway runs at the next level, he gonna let it ride. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. I'm been Mr. Vincent Turner, Mr. Football, and joining me, the most talented individual, the #1 scout in all the world. Coming live to us from Key West, Florida, Mr. Daniel Kelly. Y'all be blessed and have outstanding. And before I leave, I'd like to give special thanks to our producer who's making it happen this morning. The #1 producer, Mr. Jeremiah Long. We'd like to say thank you and God bless.
Yes,
we
thank
are
you.
100 Yards of